When I think about Dr. King and I think about Congressman Lewis and the different things that they did those things together. There may have been people that went on those journeys with them and did some of the things that they've done in history that they didn't know at all before they actually take the trip. Please get to know everybody that you're experiencing this with on this week. Okay? Get to know it. Somebody's like, I've seen him in the hallway, I've seen her in the hallway. I don't know, but get to know them on this trip. All right? You guys are going to be the John R. Lewis family that's going on this trip. So represent your families well, represent us well, and enjoy yourself.
We started by paying homage to it by we had 3 original stools when they were doing the sit-in. So these 2 stools right here are the original stools that they used to sit in at the diner. And John Lewis always came in the same, not outfit, but the same attire. So he would always wear a trench coat just like that. He'd bring a backpack and a toothpick and an apple. Because he never knew, he was always prepared to be arrested.
That location where the Woolworth Theater now is was originally the Woolworth Diner, where young civil rights leaders were fighting for equal and fair treatment at the lunch counter. I really felt like, even though it's been transformed to a theater, there were still preserved spaces in there that could kind of, give students an understanding of what took place in that space.
But this is a movement within a larger Black freedom struggle that extends all the way back into the 17th century. We're about to engage in the Legacy Museum with a history of the long Black freedom struggle. So we'll engage with enslavement. We'll engage with the history of the Civil War and Reconstruction, with lynching and with mass incarceration and other experiences and injustices that continue to affect our society today.
The Legacy Museum stuck with me because when we went there, I think it was the second day, getting to experience what was inside a museum was totally different compared to here in DC, because there's so much information and history about it when you're going inside. That was kind of impactful for me, just learning about it and seeing why we don't learn this much history today.
I think people should experience this because it gives you more of a realistic view, because when you're just seeing it in art and just little stories and bits and pieces, it doesn't really give the same telling experience. But when you're seeing all the, with the Legacy Museum, the heads in the sand and everything, it just brings you back to reality kind of. It's good to be brought back to reality because it gives you a sense of understanding and helps you understand what's going on in your life. Even though it was in history, you can still see it.
We have just pulled into Montgomery, to the bus station where the Freedom Riders came from Birmingham, from Atlanta, Nashville, just like we did. And we're about to get off the bus. Now, what did the Freedom Riders experience when they got off the bus? There's a mob out here with baseball bats, tire irons, and so on, and hollering slurs. And when we get off the bus, they knew, because they could see, that all around the bus were these crazy people who were there to harm them.
This museum is a little different from some of the other museums you're going to visit. As you can see right away, it's a little bit smaller, right? So I'm sorry about the size. You guys are going to be kind of just here for just a few minutes while I give you a brief introduction. But it's also, what did you guys notice when you came in? What did it look like from the outside? It looks like a bus station. So here's the deal. It used to be a bus station. This was Montgomery's first Greyhound bus station, built in 1951.
And literally, we're standing here where they got off the boat, right there. But not knowing where they're going, in shackles and chains, having to walk up the street and then be sold off into slavery.
We got to go to the Civil Rights Memorial Center, and from the outside, it's really unassuming. It's like a nice garden, but you don't know what you're walking into until you get in there. It just looks like a regular building inside of a city. And then we actually had the honor to be led through the first two exhibits by the director of the museum.
Civil rights pertain to the rights that a citizen of a particular country has. Human rights are rights that any human has universally, regardless of your country of origin or your place of citizenship. This room is about civil rights. So what was the issue about civil rights in the United States between 1954 and 1968?
One of my favorite places we went to was John Lewis's family house. It was just amazing to me to like meeting his actual family and like hearing how they talk about him. It's like he was a great person at heart. Like his own family, like the way they talked about him, it's like I could feel it. And so just walking around there, it's like I felt him, like his presence. It was really beautiful.
Late congressman. It's not real fun of working in the fields. He had different ideas. And he kind of, he started protesting at an early age. He even protested that back then. But that was part of who he were. And as you all know by now, he really made a difference because I truly feel that the Lord had higher things for him to do. And he stepped forward and did that.
I met Congressman Lewis not too long after I arrived in Troy, and he came into my office, and I'll have to tell you the story, but he said this. He said, I applied to Troy State College in 1957 and was rejected on the basis of race. And then he said, but I must have grown in intelligence because 32 years later, I was smart enough for the university to award me an honorary doctorate.
Brown Chapel is the headquarters. This is where it all took place. This is where they strategized. John Lewis, Dr. King, all those people, Jim Bevel, they met right inside this building right here. So this is the headquarters of the entire Selma to Montgomery voting rights or civil rights movement started right here at this hub.
Okay, we're not going to start from the church. We're going to abbreviate it a little bit, but as we're walking towards the bridge, I want you to think about what those people were thinking about when they were walking into what they were getting ready to walk into. Now think about this. Just to get the right to vote, the fair opportunity to vote, they were willing to put their lives on the line.
Every female who lived inside his house ended up being a teacher. Every male who lived inside his house ended up being a minister. And Dr. King's father and grandfather was civil rights leaders 68 years before Dr. King was born. So you can see how important role models were in the family, because Dr. King would not have been who he was if it wasn't for that family structure that he came out of.
Now, I would come here often with Congressman Lewis for lunch or dinner. And one of the reasons we wanted you to have this as your final stop, because it seems like it's so appropriate that we should all break bread together in the spirit of the beloved community at a place where Congressman Lewis would come often.
The restorative circle was my favorite part because we got together at the end, and it was definitely a moment where we all got to like sit down and like actual talk about what happened and what we learned and what we liked and what we didn't. And also it also like created a space for all of us to like share our own opinions, definitely like think about what we can do in the future.
We heard from people who were involved in the civil rights movement, who were there in the midst of it. We heard from people who learned from people who were involved in the civil rights movement. We saw and experienced things that touched us very deeply.
When you go to these places itself or these museums, you have more of a memory with it because you're seeing it in person. You're there for a specific reason, to learn more.
It's important to experience all of this with someone that you may not know, but you get to like bond with them. You get to have experiences. That's important. Even if you don't feel like ready for it, it's like good to take chances because you don't really see, or you can't really see what's in store for you unless you try.
There is something immersive, something empowering about being in the place and like literally recognizing your place in history and doing it in community with peers, with chaperones, and doing it in community with people that you're then gonna see back home when you come back to school.
So this trip is like a whole adventure. You're gonna expect a lot of things.
Here's a picture of what Martin Luther King's house looked like. I'd rather be like, oh, I've actually been inside. I've actually walked by his room. I've seen what his house actually looks like, how big it is, and how I felt like I was living if I was there.
I feel like seeing the knowledge firsthand kind of gave you a different perspective on it. Like for instance, the bus situation. I understood there was a bus, but to see it in its entirety, I feel and to see the exact seats they would have sat in and how they would have came across to the other people, I thought that was impactful.
There are differences between, with comparisons between with a good mindset and a bad mindset while reading his life legacy. And you just get to understand most of his background history and his life experience, and that kind of made me felt like that too. It was something that I was really interested in reading.
A wow moment to me was just going on, knowing that we went to these sites as tourists, but the people back then, it was just all those places were just impactful places, life changing, and we just saw them as as tourists, high school students. And the speakers gave us really good information, but I felt their passion. So it was something that I would like to do it at some point in my life. Talking about something I really love and share with others.
When I came back to the trip, I couldn't, I honestly was just I was happy to even be, I was just happy that I even got to go to all those places I went to. And my friends were telling me how oh, they wish that they went and stuff, because I was telling them how we literally were doing something every day and we had the best food ever. And And like also like yeah, we're basically busy all day, and that was really fun. I mean, it was definitely worth the time that we went there.